Someone had drilled holes in my houseboat, and now it was sinking, slowly, right before my eyes. And there she stood, the president of the Homeowners Association, putting on a dramatic performance for the cops, weeping about environmental disaster like she hadn't caused the whole thing. If that already sounds unbelievable, brace yourself. It only gets stranger from here. You ever see someone completely lose the plot over a lake? A person so obsessed with control they start acting like they run the entire government? That was Vanessa Hargrove. She acted like she was the sheriff, judge, and environmental agency all wrapped into one. All I wanted was a peaceful life back on the land my family had owned for decades. But she had other plans. It was a blistering Tuesday in late June. I was out on the deck of my houseboat sanding a new railing. The sun beat down, but a breeze from the lake kept things tolerable. I'd been rebuilding the boat for the past 3 months after moving back to my grandfather's ranch to restart my boat building business. The lake, fed by a pristine spring, was a dream, quiet, untouched, and ideal. I was deep in thought when I heard the sharp sound of heels clicking on gravel, a sound that didn't belong anywhere near ranch land. Looking up, I saw a woman marching down the path toward the water like she was inspecting a crime scene. White suit, posture like a CEO about to fire half her staff, and heels that probably cost more than my whole toolbox. She stopped right at the edge of my property and stared at my boat like it was a pile of trash. I put down the sandpaper and gave her a friendly wave. I thought maybe she was curious about my work. Big mistake. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice all blade and no warmth. "Are you responsible for this?" She pointed at the houseboat like it was a biohazard. I stood up, wiped my hands, and walked to the edge of the deck. "Yes, ma'am," I said calmly. "Built it myself. Still finishing her up, but she's coming along. I'm Ethan Caldwell, by the way, just moved back." Her face tightened. No smile. No interest. Just judgment. "I'm Vanessa Hargrove, president of the Willow Creek HOA," she announced like she was royalty. "That floating junk pile is a violation and an eyesore. You need to remove it immediately." I let out a small laugh. Probably the worst thing I could have done. But how else do you react when someone tries to boss you around on your own land? "Ms. Hargrove," I said evenly, "this lake is part of my family's ranch. Private property. HOA rules don't apply here." She flushed. Her jaw tightened. A vein pulsed on her temple. Vanessa wasn't used to hearing the word no, especially from someone like me. "I don't care about your sentimental backstory," she snapped. "This community has standards. That thing violates them. Get rid of it, or I'll make sure you do." She pointed at my boat like she wanted to set it on fire with her eyes. Sweat beaded on her face, her carefully styled hair starting to unravel. This wasn't about the boat. It was personal. I tried to reason with her. "I understand you care about your neighborhood, but this is my home. I'm just trying to live and work in peace." But she wasn't listening. She started taking photos of the boat with her phone, muttering about documentation. When she was done, she gave me a cold, satisfied smile. "You'll learn, Mr. Caldwell. I don't give up. I've dealt with people like you before. You've got 48 hours. She turned and stormed off, her designer heels digging into the dirt road. I watched her walk away, half amused, half uneasy. The lake was still, but I knew trouble had just come walking in. The days that followed turned into a nightmare. Every morning, I found something new. Tools missing, ropes tangled, fresh scrapes along the hull. Vanessa had clearly taken sabotage as her new hobby. It was like being stalked by a very determined but petty spy. She started calling daily, leaving long, dramatic voicemails quoting HOA bylaws like gospel. I stopped answering after the 6th one. The nearest neighbor lived half a mile away and didn't care what I did, but Vanessa was determined to win a battle only she was fighting. By Thursday, I started feeling like I was being watched. And I was. I caught her up on the ridge, sitting with binoculars, scanning my property like a hawk. It was invasive. Unnerving. Then came Saturday. Jack Hensley, a fellow rancher and the kind of man who'd help you fix a fence without being asked, showed up in my driveway looking uneasy. "Ethan," he said, scratching his head, "she's stirring folks up. Saying you're contaminating the lake, building something dangerous. She's filing complaints left and right, waving paperwork about environmental codes. He didn't know what she was aiming for exactly, but it was clear she was building a case. As Jack drove away, I sat on the deck and felt the weight of what she was doing. This wasn't nosiness. It was a full-blown campaign. Lies, manipulation, red tape. She was using everything she could to tear me down. I could almost hear my grandfather's voice. Protect what's yours. I wasn't looking for a fight, but I also wasn't going to be bullied off land my family had protected for generations. So I decided to try something different. Sunday morning, I started dismantling the railings. Loudly, visibly, stacked them in neat piles on shore, like I was getting ready to give up. I knew she was watching. Within an hour, like clockwork, she appeared on the ridge again. Watching, waiting, plotting. She thought I was backing down. Let her think that. I used to take photos of the lake, almost amused by the chaos, thinking maybe if I didn't resist, it would calm Vanessa down. But I was wrong. Instead of backing off, she saw my silence as a green light. Her behavior escalated. The calls turned venomous. Damage started appearing on my boat. Scratches from rocks, broken lights. And her surveillance was no longer subtle. I felt like a prisoner on my own property. Showing someone like Vanessa weakness, I realized, was like bleeding near a shark. Then Jack called, his voice tight. Ethan, Vanessa's headed your way. There's an official-looking truck behind her, maybe an inspector. I ended the call and stared across the lake my family had cherished for generations. She was about to learn I wasn't the kind of man you could push around. But before that, I made a call that changed everything. I contacted the law firm handling my grandfather's estate, requesting the original property records. I thought it'd be routine, but the lawyer seemed intrigued and promised to call back after digging into the archives. While waiting, I opened Grandpa's old cedar chest, searching through brittle maps and candle-marked surveys. What I found floored me. The documents revealed that our land spanned 800 acres, the lake and water rights included. Among the pages was Grandpa's journal, his handwriting shaky but powerful. Protect what's yours. They'll always try to take what they didn't build. 2 days later, the lawyer called back, her voice filled with awe. Ethan, she said, your great-great-grandfather acquired everything before statehood. You don't just own the land. You own the lake, the water, and 200 yards beyond the shore. It's ironclad. I could have confronted Vanessa immediately, but I chose to wait. She was burying herself in her own arrogance. Her false complaints, her smear campaign. I knew the truth would land harder if she walked herself into it. The next morning, I watched from the porch as a convoy approached, her sedan in front, followed by a government truck and a fish and wildlife vehicle. She had called in every agency she could. I let her revel in her imagined victory, smiling quietly as she paraded the investigators around. They checked everything, tested the water, examined the boat, and found nothing wrong. No pollution. No violations. The lake was cleaner than most state parks. Vanessa was desperate, insisting they had missed something, but her performance only embarrassed her. Then things got worse. Over the next 3 days, she parked near my boundary line, staring through binoculars, making constant calls. One night, I stayed on the houseboat to test repairs, and at dawn, I woke to strange sounds. When I stepped outside, I saw her on my dock with 2 rough-looking men, one carrying a drill, the other a toolbox. Without hesitation, one of them began drilling holes in the hull. What the hell are you doing? I shouted. Vanessa gave me a smug grin. Testing seaworthiness, she said coldly. We can't have a hazard on the water. Water began rushing in. I dove in, trying to stop the leak, but it was too late. The boat sank. I managed to save a box of Grandpa's journals and photographs before the cabin disappeared beneath the surface. Then she called 911. Her voice was syrupy with fake worry. A man just sank a boat. It's leaking into the lake. He should be arrested. Soaked and livid, I realized Vanessa had crossed the line from harassment into criminal sabotage. When Officer Dan Mitchell arrived, someone local who knew my family, I handed him the documents before saying a word. Read these first, I said. As he reviewed the deeds, I saw Vanessa's composure falter. Dan looked up slowly. Ma'am, this is his property. You've been filing false reports. I explained the sabotage and her phony emergency call. The officer's tone shifted. Vanessa was no longer a victim. She was now a suspect. Dan warned her she could be facing serious charges: trespassing, property damage, false reporting. Even after all that, she wouldn't stop. Within 2 days, neighbors began calling, asking if I was some kind of con artist. Vanessa had started a full-blown campaign on the HOA message board, painting me as a fraud. She even leaked my phone number. Curious and hostile residents began calling. I had to disconnect my landline just to get some peace. Jack kept me informed. "Some people think you're a crook," he said, "but others think Vanessa's lost it." Then she made her biggest mistake. Vanessa claimed she had security footage of me sinking the boat and invited the whole neighborhood to a meeting to prove it. Jack called, half laughing. "She's calling it the final nail. Thinks this'll ruin you." I came prepared. At the packed clubhouse, Vanessa stood proudly next to a television. "Tonight," she announced, "you'll all see what kind of man Caldwell really is." Before she played the video, I handed out copies of my family's land deeds. "My family has owned this property for over a century," I told the crowd. People murmured in surprise, reading the documents. Then she hit play. Grainy footage filled the screen. It showed the houseboat, but not me sabotaging it. It showed her men drilling into the hull, while she stood on the dock directing them. You could hear her urging them to hurry. The moment I ran out, shouting, was captured clearly. Silence filled the room. I stepped forward. "This is Vanessa organizing the destruction of my boat, then blaming me for it." Her face turned pale. She stammered, trying to claim the footage was edited, but no one believed her. Jack stood up and called for her removal as HOA president. The vote was nearly unanimous. Dan, who had attended the meeting quietly, confirmed the video was legitimate. With community support and legal backing, Vanessa faced charges: trespassing, property destruction, and filing false reports. My lawsuit won. She was ordered to pay damages, perform community service, and a restraining order was put in place. Eventually, she sold her home and moved away. Peace returned to the lake. The new HOA president was fair and respectful of property lines. I rebuilt the houseboat from scratch. It floats steady and proud now, a tribute to my grandfather's legacy. I know he would have smiled at how it all turned out. If you've ever faced someone like Vanessa, just know, truth can prevail. But you have to stand your ground.